Hello and welcome to the Judo Way of Life podcast. My name is Tyler and I will be interviewing the one and only David Groom.
Hello Tyler, thank you for having me. Before we start, let's just make sure we introduce you first. So you're Tyler. Now Tyler's one of my students that I coach judo. How old are you, Tyler?
7.
7. And how long have you been doing judo for?
4 months.
Yeah, you've been doing longer than 4 months.
5.
No, near a couple of years.
6.
No, I think it's been about 3 years.
Yes,
I'm going to say 3 years. I'm sure you were 4 when you first started, one of the tiny tots. But time flies by, you're having fun, so that's why you only think it's been 6 months. And you asked if you could interview me.
Yep.
And that's why we're here now doing the podcast. So a little bit different to usual, but let's go. So what's your first question?
What age did you start judo?
So I was slightly older than you when I first started. I was about 6 when I first did judo. I went and I did about a month, and I really didn't like it. Didn't like being thrown. I had a few health things, so I just had problems with my ears at the time. So getting thrown, really didn't enjoy it. It would give me really bad headaches, and so I quit after a month, and that was it for me. Then, thankfully, a couple of years later, I was 9, and my little brother was about 5 or 6 at the time. Adam, he decided he wanted to go to judo and give it a try. And with us being quite competitive, I was like, well, if he's going, I'm going. So thankfully, I went back and gave it another try. And then I've been doing it ever since. So I've been doing it for 24 years now.
Nice. What do you like about judo?
So for me, judo solved a bit of a problem, should I say, that I had. So I have ADHD or ADD, attention deficit disorder. So I'm quite scattered, quite energetic, a little bit all over the place. I struggle concentrating for long periods of time on a single task. And judo provided me with an outlet where I was able to wrestle. I was able to get a lot of this energy out, because judo's quite a physical sport. And there's a lot going on, which suited me, because my attention would be all over the place, and it meant that I could adjust my focus all the time, and it gave me something to actually made me calmer, having so much going on. Burnt off a lot of the energy as well. And because, like, as you know, there's a lot of discipline involved in judo, and that structure and having having to bow in at the beginning of the session, being somewhere at a particular time and learning to be punctual, and then being respectful on the mat, not being able to run around and talk while the coach was talking. So these elements of discipline helped me control that side of things. And that's why I like judo. I like throwing people as well. Throwing people is great fun. And I like the competitive nature. As I mentioned to you, me and my little brother were very competitive. I've always been competitive, and being able to do randori, being able to compete on a small scale every session, having that element, and then also having the regular competitions were something I found very enjoyable very early on. First started doing competitions after only 4 weeks of doing judo, I think. I did my first competition. And then was, doing them all the time after that.
Alright, how often do you train?
Now? How often do I train now? So now, not very much, because we're in lockdown. But usually, I'd try and do judo nowadays 3 or 4 times a week. I try and do some strength-based training a couple of times a week. And then I usually use my judo as cardio now, so I don't really go out for many runs anymore. But if I can give you a bit more of an insight to how I used to train whilst I was a full-time athlete, if you want.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah? Okay. So when I was a full-time athlete, I was training between 3 and 5 times a day. So this was in my early 20s. So when I finished university, I went to a Kendall Judo Club, and I lived there with a group of other people. Okay. And we did judo 2 times a day. So it'll be a technique-based session. And then a randori-based session, and we do that pretty much every day, so 5 or 6 days a week, depending on what the program looked like. And we'd also do some resistance-based exercises, so we'd be doing our strength training, and then we'd also do some form of conditioning, whether that be a circuit or going out doing running. I used to do a lot more running back then than I do now. And we do mixtures of sprint stuff, so anything from like 100 meters to sort of 400 meter running, and then all the way up to sort of 5-10k runs as well. We do a mixture during the week.
All right. Do you do any more sports?
Do I do any more sports? So, not at a competitive level, not now anyway. So judo's pretty much the only sport I do at a Oh, that's not true. Sorry, I do a bit of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I do compete here and there in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to varying degrees of success.
Yeah.
But yeah, relatively speaking, judo's the only sport I do at competitive level. So I do a little bit of running. A few years ago, I did compete in a 10k run, and I do have aspirations of competing in a marathon. Not to any kind of competitive standard, obviously. Just like to get across that finish line. Just before we went into this lockdown, I was training at an Olympic weightlifting gym. So I was trying to learn, but that was more to do with learning the technique more than any kind of competitive aspirations. What else did I do? So when I was younger, when I was your age, when I was 7, 8, I used to do a lot of swimming. I used to swim quite a few times a week at the local swimming pool. I used to do the cross-country running as well. So I don't know if they have... Do you have cross-country running in Australia?
Yeah.
You do? Yeah. So we used to have cross-country running, so it'd be nice and cold and wet usually. You'd be running around in the countryside, getting muddy and sweaty, and yeah, it was good fun. Skiing. I used to do a little bit of skiing, so we had an artificial ski slope near where I lived. When I was like, about your age, 7, 8, 9, I used to go skiing. So it's before I started judo, actually. Cool. And then when I was at high school, I was on the field hockey team. And again, I carried on doing a lot of the running events, more like the long distance, so cross-country. I did the 800 metres and the 1,500 metres for the school. I think that was probably about it, really. And then because judo became very much a big part of my life quite early on.
Yep.
And then that sort of took over everything, really, to be honest with you, and became more of a, less of a hobby and more of a, what's the level up from a hobby, would you say? More than a hobby, we'll go with that.
Okay. How do you stay healthy?
So I stay healthy by doing judo now, most of the time, and I'm not injured. But yeah, for me, I do the judo to stay healthy. Obviously, the physical nature is good for keeping me fit, keeping me strong, and occasionally still go out and do a bit of a run when I can be bothered. And I like to do strength training. So when I was competing full-time in judo, my strength was probably one of my limiting factors in my judo development. That was an area sort of I never focused enough time and energy on. I was very good as a runner. I had a very good cardio engine. So I used to do a lot of running. I was quite fast for my size. I was very good in sort of on the endurance level. Could run all day long, no worries. But the strength side of things was something that let me down. So now I've sort of gone the other way. I'm spending a lot more time doing strength work. I find lifting weights much more enjoyable than running these days. So I focus a lot more time and energy on that. It's just nice picking up big weights. You like doing
a lot?
Not now. No. So I went for a 6k run yesterday. So I still do a little bit of running because I think it's important. Out of all the kind of cardio exercises that you can do, running's the one I prefer. I like putting my music on. I listen to some heavy metal. Zone out for a little bit and just run as fast as I can. Don't particularly like cycling. I ride my bike to get to and from work, but that's about it. Don't do it for pleasure. And I'm not the biggest fan of swimming. I much prefer running out of all the sort of usual cardio methods. I mean, I'll do occasional circuit training, some high-intensity interval circuits. And I like to use a kettlebell, actually, to do some cardio-based work. But still, running's one of my favourites.
How many calories do you eat a day?
I have absolutely no idea. Not right now, anyway. So when I used to train full-time, I was an 81 kilo player. So at 6'2", I was quite tall to be fighting 81s, but I moved up to 81s when I was 13. Then had success at a national level. I won my first national medal as an under 81 kilo player, I think when I was 13. I then won a medal abroad in Sweden at a competition in Lugi as an 81 kilo flyer. And then European cadet bronze medal. And then from there, I sort of moved up to the junior level. And I was fighting at the 81s. I did quite well in Europe. I won a couple of junior A tournaments under 81s. And then as I transitioned into a senior, my transition from a junior player, so into a senior, so around sort of 19, 20, that age, I sort of struggled. And again, coming back to the strength thing, I was very weak moving from the junior to the senior. The men were a lot stronger, and my results sort of dropped off really around that time. But because of the way the training and because I was in the flow of things, I stayed as an 81 kilo fighter. And then as I got older, I got heavier, so I was having to lose a lot of weight. So at that time, I knew exactly what I was eating. I tracked all my calories, and then obviously leading into a competition, I'd have to lose a bit of weight, and I'd be aware of that. And I knew exactly what I weighed. Every 3 times a day I'd weigh myself, like breakfast, lunch, dinner. I'd always know what weight I was. I'd keep track of it. And then leading into the competition, I'd monitor that to make sure I made the weight. That was okay for a couple of years. But then as I sort of got towards my mid-20s, so like sort of 23, finding it harder and harder. I was having to drop like about 10 kilos for every competition. And I was losing the enjoyment. So I was spending more time tracking calories, and I was spending more time worrying about what I was going to eat or not going to eat than even thinking about the competition, which isn't the most ideal way to go about doing things. If you're doing a judo competition, you want to think about the judo. You don't want to be thinking about what lovely things you're going to eat after you've made weight. It's a little bit distracting. And I started to lose a bit of that enjoyment in the sport because I was focusing too much on losing weight and that side of things. And then actually it was after a trip to Australia in 2012. I had a few too many steak pies. Well, I went to Japan first. I went to Japan and trained there for 8 weeks, and then came to Australia, trained in Australia, and then went to China. And then by the time I got back, I'd made the decision that I was going to become a 90 kilo fighter. So I moved up and then stopped tracking calories as much because my weight was okay. I didn't have to worry about that kind of thing. And funnily enough, when I stopped worrying about my weight, my weight actually dropped lower. So whilst I was stressing about it, I was sitting about 90 kilos. As soon as I went to 90 kilos and stopped worrying, my weight dropped back down to about 86, which meant I was quite light for a 90, so I didn't track my calories anymore. I stopped doing that. Fought at 90s for a couple of years, and then now that I'm in Australia and I fight at 100 kilos, I eat pretty much what I want. I like to stay healthy. You know, as we talked about the training things, I like to stay healthy. But I also like to stay healthy in terms of what I put into my body, the fuel, because if you don't put the right food into your body, you're not going to be able to train. And I like to feel good. I don't like to feel sluggish. And usually, you know, if you're eating too many, what would be considered the unhealthy things, you're going to start to feel sluggish, you're going to start to feel a bit crap. So I don't like to feel that way. So I try to put good food in. But having said that, I do like ice cream. I do like chocolate, so I do like a biscuit. Very English of me. I like a cup of tea and a biscuit at night before I go to bed. So I still like to treat myself, you know, and at the weekend, if I want to treat myself to a pizza, I'll have a pizza. So I don't worry too much about that kind of thing now. And I've found a nice balance between eating more or less what I want, keeping my weight at a level that I want, and remaining healthy and functional and able to still train and able to still coach in a way that I like.
All right. What are your tips for a judo person wanting to go to the Olympics?
Good question. So, I never went to the Olympics. So it was always a goal of mine from quite a young age. I wanted to go to the Olympics. And I'm going to say the majority of my decisions were made based around that goal. So when it came to sacrificing, say, family holidays, because training came up, I sacrificed a family holiday, went to the training instead, and I dedicated my time to trying to achieve that goal. Okay, and I had a lot of success and a lot of failure along the way, and I never reached the Olympics. Okay, now, if I never would have had the Olympics as a goal, there's a very good chance I would not have achieved the things that I did achieve trying to get there. Okay, so I think it's very important sometimes to set yourself goals. Now, was the Olympics a realistic goal? Yes, I could have gone to the Olympics, okay? It just, the way things worked out, I wasn't good enough, okay? Which is another good lesson for me to learn. It's a good lesson to learn sometimes that you're not good enough to achieve certain things, and that's fine. But having that as a goal that was potentially attainable meant that I was able to reach for it and achieve other things along the way. Like I've won multiple national champions. I was national champion in Great Britain, under 90s. I've been national champion in Australia 2 times now, under 100s. I won Commonwealth Championships at under 81. So, I've achieved some pretty decent titles. Okay. And there's a good chance I wouldn't have achieved them if I hadn't have made the certain sacrifices along the way to have got there. Now, for a junior player, so how old are you saying for a junior player? Someone like yourself, 7 or maybe a bit older?
Maybe in the 10s.
Yeah, 10s?
Yeah,
okay,
10s.
So I would turn around to them and I'd try and be realistic without being negative. So what I mean by that is I would turn around and say, awesome, it's great that that's something that you want to work towards.
Yeah.
I would turn around and say, it's going to be a lot of hard work.
Yes.
Okay? It's going to take a lot of sacrifice. And as you go along, I think it'd be very important to keep reassessing that that's what you want to achieve.
Yeah.
Now, the Olympics is considered probably the highest level of competitive achievement for our sport in judo. All right, and it's an amazing. I've been to the Olympics to watch, and you see it. It's an amazing thing to see. It's an amazing thing to be at. And I imagine it's even more amazing to compete in it and to win. But there's going to be a lot of hard work that's going to have to go into that, and it's something you're going to have to be prepared to undertake. It's not a decision to make lightly. There we are. Not a decision to make lightly. But I think it's something that will, even if you don't achieve it, it's going to put you in a very strong position to achieve a lot of other things in your life. So I think it's a very worthwhile goal to have.
Yeah.
And I think it's attainable to, I think anyone, okay, let me phrase this. Let me work this out. So I think anyone can go to the Olympics, but the Olympics is not for everyone, if that makes sense. So anyway, everyone has the ability to get there. And I think if they put their mind to it and they make the sacrifices and they put everything on the line to try and get there, I think everyone has the potential to get there. All right, but not everyone is willing to make those sacrifices. Not everyone is willing to put the amount of training in that's what is to get there. Not everyone is willing to struggle and blood, sweat and tears and achieve it. And that's why the Olympics is such a high level in the sport, because it is only those people really that are willing to put everything on the line, make all those sacrifices, like just train day in, day out consistently for years, that are able to get there. And that's what makes it so special, because not everyone can be an Olympic champion and not everyone should be an Olympic champion. So it's slightly contradictory what I said there, but makes sense in my head.
Who is your favourite judo person?
Good one. Okay, I'm just going to ask, right, do you mean my favourite competitor, my favourite coach, my favourite...
Competitor.
My favourite competitor, okay. So, I've got 3. All right, I'm going to give you 3. So when I was a kid, someone I probably looked up to coming along was Neil Adams, who was probably one of the most successful judo players in Great Britain. I remember going to one of his seminars when I was quite young, and he put Jujikitam on me. He was doing a demonstration Jujikitam, which is not a technique that you've learned yet because you're a little bit too young for arm locks. But Jujikitam is an arm lock, and he ripped my arm off, and I remember my arm hurting for days afterwards. And he didn't do anything to me like that was anything wrong. He was just so good at doing this technique. I was just in awe. Incredible athlete. And so when I was growing up, he was sort of my, I won't say idol, but someone I looked up to. And then as a competitor, there was times when he was coach, and he was coaching the British team. I remember actually a few times he was coaching the Belgium squad, and me and my mate Michael, I might get him in trouble now actually, but me and my mate Michael would do a competition in Belgium, and then we'd stayed and did the training camp afterwards, but we didn't pay for the training camp, we'd sneak on. And when Neil was coach of the Belgium team, he'd look after us, and he'd take us to the official hotel and let us eat some of the food in the official hotel we didn't pay for. So he looked after us. So I always looked up to Neil. Then when I was a bit older, and whilst he was still competing, probably Iliadis. His judo was, and probably still is, just it's ridiculous how good a fight. Some of the stuff he would do just sort of defies logic and physics when you watch it, especially in slow motion. Just an incredible specimen of a judo player. And then now, current athlete, that's judo players on the circuit, probably Ono. Ono's got some of the most amazing judo. I watch him do judo, and it's probably actually the same as watching Iliadis. I watch him, watch both of them, and I look at my own judo, and I'm just like, nowhere near. They are just really, the exceptions in the sport, just truly understand the sport on a higher level than I'll ever be able to understand the sport. And it's just incredible to watch. You know, watching Arno at the last Olympics, it was just pure judo.
Yeah.
You could see in the final, you could see him setting up the throw that he eventually won with.
Yeah.
He was setting it up for 2 or 3 minutes. And then the throw he eventually won with, he was just waiting for that reaction. Just waiting, patiently waiting. And then when he got the right reaction he wanted, he came in and threw. Double Olympic champion. You don't get much better than that.
What is your biggest achievement?
My biggest achievement as an athlete?
Yeah.
Good question. I think the competition that probably had the biggest impact on me, was winning the European Cadet Bronze medal when I was 15. So, up to that point, I'd only ever won one other medal before that, and I was in Sweden.
Yeah.
Okay. And I was number 1 in Great Britain at the time. And I got selected to go to the European Cadet Championships, and they were in Rotterdam in Holland. Yeah. I had absolutely no pressure on me to even win a fight. I was selected because I was number 1 in Great Britain, but I didn't have any results anywhere else. And there was a number of other players who had results, and the pressure was sort of on them to perform well. I was just, in my head, I was just there for a sort of a good time. I didn't really know what was going on. It was all a bit of a blur to me, and I just remember getting to won first 3 fights, and I wasn't really thinking about it. It was the first time the judo had just happened. You know, I wasn't really nervous. I mean, there was obviously it was more of an alert sense of nervous. It wasn't like the nerves weren't impacting me in a negative way. And it's probably the first time I really became aware of being in that very nice sort of zone where my body was just reacting and the judo was just coming rather than me having to like really think about it. Because when you're thinking about it, usually the opportunity's gone. You've missed it because it's taking you too long to process the information. Okay. Yeah. And it's probably the first time that really ever happened. And it was a good day for it to happen on. And I remember getting to the semi-finals, and I was just like waiting in the corridor to go out to fight. And I was fighting a Russian, and I was like, bloody hell, I'm fighting in the semi-finals here. This is, and I sort of became aware of what was going on. And then I started to panic a little bit. Yeah. And I went out and I fought the Russian, and I fought like an absolute tit. He threw me with a drop sinagi. And then went into the bronze medal fight. I was fighting a Greek boy for bronze, and I did a throw on him we call it the twitch. So you pretend to do a throw like an ogoshi. You pretend to do an ogoshi, but then you take him backwards. And I threw him, and so up on the bronze medal. Yeah. And that was probably the first time when I was like,
15.
Yeah, I was 15. For the first time, I was like, all right, I can actually do judo here. and that was a big shift sort of for me, and it opened that result opened a lot of doors. I got sort of fast-tracked onto the junior team. I was taken to a lot of competitions. Probably wouldn't have gone to at that age if I hadn't won that medal. It opened a lot of doors for me. That I ended up on funding. Yeah. So I was going to the English Institute of Sport. I got coaching from a strength and conditioning coach. I had access to physios and different things. And it really helped sort of catapult me along for quite a few years, that result. And that was the first time I really was like, yep, I can do a bit of judo. It was all right. So that was probably that was probably the biggest in the sense of that the achievement had the most profound effect on me. In terms of probably the highest level of medal I won, it's probably winning the Commonwealth Championships in 2012. So not the Commonwealth Games. So Commonwealth Games is a big multi-sport event that they have every 4 years, but every year in between that, they still run a Commonwealth tournament just for judo. Yeah. So I won that in 2012, under 81 kilos. So for me, that was probably one of the highest level tournaments I won. Yeah.
Pre-post comment rituals.
Okay, so that's it. Yeah. So pre and post competition rituals. You know what a ritual is?
No.
You know what superstition is?
No.
Okay, so a ritual is something that you would do every time before a competition or after a competition as a way of trying to get some kind of good luck. Yeah. All right, now, yes but no. So when I was a younger judo player, I used to have a few sort of rituals. Now, I'm not superstitious. I don't really sort of believe in, carrying around a rabbit's foot for good luck and all that kind of rubbish.
Yeah.
All right, I don't think any of that works. Now, having said that, I would try and build some kind of a process that I would repeat, okay, as a way of getting my head into the right state for competition. Yeah. I used to listen to a lot of music. I used to listen to a lot of heavy metal rock music. I would have certain songs I would like try and listen to because I felt as though they would get me into the right state. And then I would make sure I listened to them before a competition, and I'd make sure my self-talk, I'd be really positive in my head. I'd be like, right, Dave, this is your day. Yeah. All right, this is going to be, you're going to win today. This is your day, right? So, and then I'd go out and fight. And it got to the point where I'd built up this self-talk in my head. Yeah. I was indestructible. In my head, there's no way I was going to lose. All right, and then I'd go out and fight, and inevitably I'd fight someone who was very good. Yeah. And the fight wouldn't go as well as I told myself it was going to go in my head. And I would have this crash in the middle of the fight. It was sort of like a bit of a panic. And then sort of like halfway through a fight, I'd start to, because, if I wasn't winning or doing as well as I thought I was, I'd have this bit of a panic, and I couldn't figure out, what was going on, and I'd lose concentration, and quite a lot of the time I'd do something silly. I'd go in for a silly attack at the wrong time. I'd get countered and thrown. And quite often I lost a lot of fights in the sort of the last 30 seconds because I was panicking. And I went away and had a bit of a think about this, all right? And I changed my thought process because I was getting far too excited before a competition far too soon. So I was in the warm-up area, I had the music on, I was getting really, really worked up, and it burns a lot of energy. Yeah. All right, that nervous energy, and I was getting just far too excited, far too soon, and I'd go out and it just all go to pieces. All right, so I changed everything that I was doing. All right, I went back to the drawing board and I came up with a new routine. It's not really a ritual, more of a routine. So I'd go out and I'd be far more relaxed. I'd chill out in the warm-up room. I'd make sure I have a good warm-up. Now, something I like to do when I'm warming up, now this might seem a bit strange, so I'll get one of my training partners. Yeah. I get them to take hold of my lapel with one hand. Yeah. And I'll stand there, we'll be moving around, and I'll get them to forearm smash me in the head. Take a grip. So I want them to hit me in the side of the head as hard as they can, take a grip, and then put me under pressure. Yeah. And when they do that, it wakes me up a little bit, but I'd sort of breathe through it. And I'd control my nerves when it was happening by using just by breathing basically, and just being like, well, this is okay, and then we'd break the grips, mess around, and then they'd smack me around the other side of the head. And what that would do is, it was effectively I was having my first fight in the warm-up area, and then I'd calm down a little bit. Okay, I'd stop listening to music. I didn't listen to as much music when I was going out to compete. And I'd listen to what was going on in the stadium. I'd listen to the crowd, the other fights, to be a bit more present to what was going on. And then, so I walked down to the mat area, and I'd be laughing and joking. I wouldn't really be thinking about the competition at that point. And then as soon as I was about to go onto the mat, I'd bow on. Yeah. So I start my right foot, my left foot. Yeah. Okay, and then that was it. Focused. And in my head, my self-talk changed, and I would basically turn around and say, well, we're here for a good time. Yeah. Obviously, I want to win, but win or lose, I just want to enjoy this fight. Yeah. So I changed my sorts of psychology and my self-talk from being like, you've got to win this, you're the best, you can do this, to we're just here to have a good time, win or lose. Obviously, I don't like losing, but you can still enjoy a contest. Yeah. Sometimes people are better than you, and that's okay. And from that little change, what you may call a ritual, just meant I was having a much better time. And funnily enough, I was actually performing a lot better by changing that little routine. In terms of post-com rituals, no. I usually go out and have a big feed. Go out and eat a lot of food. It's nice to eat a lot of food after you've had a busy day training and competing.
For sure. Goals for the future.
Goals for the future. All right, so competitive goals are not that many. All right, so probably going to take a step back from doing as many competitions now. I want to focus more of my attention on coaching. Yeah. So my goals for the future were more aligned with being a coach. Okay, so I'd like to open my own judo club at some point. Yeah. I'd like to be a coach with the New South Wales state team. Okay, I like to go and take players up to the nationals and coach players there. When I was an athlete, when I was coming through, so my coach, we'd always run we'd run training camps, and we'd go to Europe a lot. Now, continental Europe's very close to England. All right, so we can go abroad. Now, I'd like to, because those trips were amazing experiences. Okay, so I first went abroad. First competition was in Sweden when I was 12.
Yeah.
Okay, and it was, we were away from home. We were sleeping on a judo mat in this massive sports centre in Sweden. And there's hundreds of judo players there. Hundreds. We did big competition, did a lot of randori for a week. But it was just the fact we were away from our parents.
Yeah.
Big group of judo players, and it was a very eye-opening experience.
Yeah.
All right, as a young boy, really, at 12. And since I moved to Australia, a lot of people, you can't go there, you can't do this because everywhere's too far away. We can still go somewhere. We go to New Zealand. So I'd like to start, taking trips to places that are close enough to do judo and start building more partnerships with other clubs, and we can build a bit more of a community and try and develop things a little bit bigger. Because would you like to go and compete in New Zealand?
No.
You don't want to compete in New Zealand? Well, maybe a bit too young at 7. How about when you're a little bit older? Would you go and compete over there? You do a trip? Yeah. How many competitions have you done, Sal?
1.
You've done 1? Yeah, okay.
2 second places.
2 second places. Yeah, it was a good day, that was. We'll get you a few more under your belt, and then when you were a young boy as well, when you're sort of 11 or 12, hopefully we'll be running trips overseas, and you can go and do some judo and beat up some people in a different place, a different part of the world. How does that sound?
Yeah, good.
Yeah. So me, my goals are a lot more coaching, to develop something where people can have more of an experience, so they got memories of judo and training outside of just going to the local judo club. Maybe set up some judo camps with. So we used to do a lot of judo camps where we do outdoor activities, so like running with logs, running with sandbags, going out doing different activities out in the wilderness, running through rivers, and just exciting outdoor things as well as the judo. I mean, the judo's phenomenal, but the whole camp was an experience, and I'd like to develop something like this so other people have the opportunity for having an experience of both judo and other things that can go along with it.
How do you keep your beard looking so good whilst competing?
Okay, so all right, so you'll see from the artwork that we've used for this episode that I currently have a rather large bushy ginger beard. Now, usually my beard's not this long when I'm competing, when I'm training. Can you guess why I don't have it this long when I'm competing?
So they don't pull your beard?
Good. Now, if I was in a competition and someone came at me and they had a big ginger beard, actually doesn't have to be ginger. If they had a big beard, okay, the first thing I would do is pull on that beard. All right, I'd take a grip on the lapel and I'd make sure I get a big handful of beard hair and pull on it. It's not pleasant. So it would be very naive of me to assume that somebody else wouldn't also think the same. So if I'm training and someone's pulling on my beard, or I'm competing and someone's pulling on my beard, it's not very pleasant. So usually I keep my beard a lot shorter than this. Yeah, I'd shave it, not completely off. When I used to train full time, I used to keep a much shorter beard. It gets a little bit irritated when you're training, so you can't really have a big beard. And if you watch the high level competitions, there's no one in any of the competitions with a big beard. It just doesn't happen. So the beard only looks good at the minute because we're in lockdown, we're not training, and I'm letting myself go a little bit wild. But as soon as we're back to training, I'll be trimming it a little bit shorter.
All right.
Quite a lot shorter.
Thanks, Dave, for today.
Oh, good, mate. Do you have any other questions you'd like to ask?
Nah.
All right, I'm going to ask you a question.
All right, what?
What's your favourite thing about judo?
Throwing people.
Throwing people. Anything else?
Beating them down.
Beating them down. Good. And what's your favourite throw so far that you've learnt?
Before's Osogari, which is David's favourite throw. Now it's Ogoshi.
I like Ogoshi? Big hip throw? Good. What's your favourite hold down?
Minikatami.
Minikatami. Good. And do you have any, what are your judo goals?
Oh, that's a really hard question for a little kid. I'm not really sure. Just going to the Olympics and beating their ass down.
Yeah, going to the Olympics and beating their ass down. That is an absolutely fantastic answer. Good lad. All right, Tyler, let me ask you some of the other questions that you asked me. Is that okay?
Yep.
So how often do you train?
2 times a week mostly.
Yeah, is that judo?
Yes.
All right. And how do you like to stay healthy?
So I do judo zooms with you every Thursday and Tuesdays, and bike rides with my dad because I'm doing a thing called what was it called again?
Is that the thing you're doing for charity for cancer?
Yeah.
How far do you have to ride your bike for that?
6 kilometers.
A day?
Yeah.
And then is that for the whole month you were saying?
Yes.
So 6k a day for a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. And what else?
I eat salad.
Yeah.
Always when we have salad for my dad's dinner.
Yep.
And fruit every day mostly. Like mandarins and apples.
Yeah.
And sometimes I eat ice cream since I'm a kid.
Good. I eat ice cream and I'm an adult, so don't worry. You don't grow out of that habit. At least I haven't.
Yeah.
What's your favourite flavour of ice cream?
Vanilla.
Vanilla. Nice. And do you do any other sports?
Yes.
I know you mentioned bike riding, but is there anything else you do?
Swimming, judo, BJJ, and soccer and BMX.
Yeah, do BMX. Do you compete in any of those other sports?
Yeah, I compete in all of them.
Oh yeah, okay. And
except jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. And what, have you won any medals in any of those sports?
Yeah, judo I won 2 silvers at Tiger Comp, and soccer we won some games.
Yeah, awesome.
And BMX I won some trophies and some medals. And swimming, not really. I win stuff, but yeah, it's alright. Don't win that much stuff with swimming.
Yeah, okay. Do you enjoy swimming?
Yeah, it's just aquatic centers because they're making it all new because it will open at December.
Oh yeah, so that's where the Olympics were held.
Yeah.
In 2000.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay, and all right. So you asked me this one, so I'm going to ask you as well. But how many calories do you eat a day?
I don't really count my calories a day.
Probably a good thing considering you're only 7.
Yeah.
I'd be a bit worried if you knew exactly what you were doing. Especially with eating so much ice cream.
Yep.
All right, mate. So actually, we just talked about your the medals you've won, but what would you say would be the biggest achievement so far?
At the Tiger Comp, that I won 2 silver medals. That's a really big one for me.
Yeah.
Because it's my first year competition.
Yeah. What I think's your biggest achievement as your coach. Do you want to tell you? So when you came from the tiny tots to the junior judo, so it's obviously quite a big jump from being a 5-year-old going on to the big class. And what was it like? There was all those big, horrible, older kids. It's a little bit scary, isn't it?
Because I was not sure if I wanted to go because I was happy in the tiny tots, and then I got used to the junior one, and then so you'll get used to it because if you just stay in the tiny tots, you'll beat them because you're too big. So
that's what I think your biggest achievement is so far, is stepping up and going on to the bigger class. And even though you're a little bit nervous, you still, you got through it, and then you walk around like you own the place now, don't you?
Yeah.
Good. All right. Who is your favourite judo person? Now, I'm going to split this up because you only asked me about my favourite judo competitor. All right. So who's your favourite judo competitor?
My favourite now is between you and Nathan Katz.
Between me and Nathan Katz. Okay, good answer. But if you had to really pick, who would you say?
And Josh Katz.
And Josh Katz. Okay, good.
That's hard.
Yeah? Who's your favourite coach?
You.
Good answer. So my favourite coach is Brian. So he's my coach from the UK. at Baker Judo Club. So he's been my coach since I was about 9 or 10 years old.
Yeah.
So that's 24 years he's been my coach. And he still, you know, if I need any help now, any coaching, any tips or any guidance, he still helps me out today. Even though we live on other ends of the world. All right?
Yeah.
So that's a good coach.
I think it's Nathan Katz.
You think it's oh, mate. I'm hurt. Only joking. No, good. And why?
Because he gave it a big go at the Olympic Games.
He did give it a big go at the Olympics. He did very well. Yeah, it's definitely someone good to look up to as an Australian judo player. Excellent. All right, and then finally, what are your tips for a junior person wanting to go to the Olympics? So if one of your friends says they want to go to the Olympics, do you have any tips for them? What guidance would you give them?
Never give up.
Yep.
Listen to your mum and dad. And just have a go at it and see if you win any gold or medals.
Yeah.
Bronze.
And, as you said, go to the Olympics and do what?
Just have fun.
No, what else did you say?
Never give up.
Beat their ass down.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, good. Well, Tyler, thank you very much for coming and interviewing me. I really enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed it as well. Thank you for answering the questions as well. Not easy to know some of those answers, I don't think, as a 7-year-old. You learn anything new?
Yeah.
Good. That's a good answer. We'll stick with that.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Bye, David.
Bye-bye, Tyler.